So I went and saw Black Widow this weekend, and I have some thoughts. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to share some thoughts. It's super bizarre because I've been seeing a few different articles saying how Black Widow is the movie that's going to save the box office. This is the one that's getting people back into the theaters. When I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but back in LA, this is the first weekend that they're actually opening the theaters to maximum capacity instead of having the buffer seats in between you. So because of that, you're going to get a lot more tickets. Anyway, about the movie. This movie is the newest outing by Marvel. If I'm not mistaken, it is the first entry in Phase 4 of the MCU, and this movie sucks. Holy shit. I wish that this was a lot better. Unfortunately, there's a lot of issues that I take with it. We're going to start off with the positive, get that stuff out of the way. There's not that much, so this will be a quick section. David Harbour is pretty charismatic as the Red Hood. Wait, no, that's not right. What, Red Soldier or some shit? I don't know. He's basically the communist Captain America. Even though his character isn't really that interesting and it doesn't have all that much to do, I don't think, he is still a charismatic actor and brings a lot of fun and a lot of flavor to every role that he does, whether it's this, whether it's Stranger Things, or that new Steven Soderbergh movie that just came out. Like, this guy just knows how to carry his own presence on screen, and this is no different. Another example of this is Florence Pugh in the movie. She plays Yelena, who is Natasha's younger adopted sister of sorts. There's kind of a weird family dynamic in the whole thing. She's pretty good. Again, she doesn't have all that much to work with, so she can only be as good as the script allows her to be, which unfortunately just isn't that awesome. That just brings us straight into the problems. This is a really poorly done movie on a lot of different levels. I just mentioned the script being pretty subpar, and when I say that, I mean that it doesn't feel like there's any sort of meaningful conflict that's ever established in this movie. The whole deal with it is that they're trying to hunt down this guy that I don't remember the name of, who's in charge of the Black Widow program or the organization that's the Black Widows. I saw this movie yesterday morning and I can't remember anything about it, and it's only been a day. That speaks to the quality of this thing. But anyway, they're trying to hunt down this guy, and he's like mind controlling all the Black Widows to do his bidding or something like that. And so Natasha Romanoff decides, like, oh, I'll just go and kill this guy. I thought I killed him a while back, but I guess I didn't, so I'll go and now I'm going to kill him. And she ends up bringing Florence Pugh along. Florence Pugh and them, they meet up with David Harbour and Rachel Weisz, who were their undercover adopted parents back when they were trying to steal some classified information from S.H.I.E.L.D. in America back in the 90s or something like that. And it's just, none of it is engaging or interesting, and it takes a really long time to get to the core of what this movie's about, to the point where I didn't even realize that they had gotten to the point until a half hour later, because the first bit of this movie focuses on them all as children, and by them all I mean the two girls, Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson. They are younger and they're just doing whatever the hell they do in Ohio, and then David Harbour comes home and he's like, oh, we gotta leave, and then they leave, and then they get tranked by some Russian military dude and get inducted into the Black Widow program. But it's so bizarre because it takes up maybe 10-15 minutes of the movie, and there's like this chase sequence on an airplane, and none of it is necessary. None of it is important to the story. It could have all been told in a couple lines of dialogue later in the movie, and that's something that I noticed throughout this whole thing. There's a lot of unnecessary information and a lot of unnecessary scenes throughout the entire movie. There's several points where I noticed this. There's a whole section where they end up going to this farm that Rachel Weisz has, where she's like mind controlling pigs or some shit. This entire sequence on the farm, they're just sitting around a table talking, and then they sit in a bedroom and talk, and then they sit in a kitchen and talk, but none of the things that they're saying have any sort of meaningful impact on the story or the characters, because there's really not that much thought put into any of this. It feels like a very throwaway movie, like they were just trying to cash in on the fact that they have a character that a lot of people like, without putting in the time or the effort to really give this character something interesting to do in her own movie. She's always been entertaining in the other movies, but she's never stood out to me as somebody who really demands her own story, because she's always been treated as a supporting player. And so when you give her her own movie in the way that they've done here, I think that they treated her that way, where they were thinking, oh my god, well, we have this supporting character, now all of a sudden we have to give her something to do, and they don't give her anything that interesting to do. They just say, oh, you're gonna go and do this thing, you're gonna kill this guy, that's never been mentioned before in any of the other movies, except for a throwaway reference in Avengers. It was just so bland and uninteresting throughout the entire runtime. I was hoping that we were past the days of Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel, even though those were very recent, wasn't. Spider-Man Far From Home was something that was not all that great, but it still had some excitement and some really creative action sequences in there with the way that they handled Mysterio. But with this one, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of people that didn't know how to make an action movie were trying to make an action movie, and they were also trying to make it a spy thriller. It was trying to be too many things at once, and unfortunately it failed at being everything that it was trying to do. Yeah, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. There's no focus to this. It's just me talking about how this movie is pretty stupid. It's way too long. I think it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. It could have easily been an hour and a half given the amount that they actually cover in this story. You know, they're just meandering from scene to scene. Every scene either takes way too long or is completely unnecessary. Yeah, I was really let down by this one. I was hoping for something better, but frankly, that's not what we got. And so now we just have this movie that is here, and it's here to stay. Yeah, wow, I really just feel uninspired talking about it because it felt like they were uninspired while making it. So I guess I'll leave it there. 3 out of 10. Wouldn't recommend it. If you're a fan of the Marvel movies, I don't see this being anyone's favorite. Like I said, this is on the lowest tier of Marvel movies with Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel. You know, there's a few other Marvel movies coming out later in the year. Hopefully they give a shit about those ones because they clearly didn't with this one. Anyway, that's all. Take care.